Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. This is the very first of what we hope to be many engagements like this. This is on behalf of the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association has a vision of seeing every alum engaged, and to us engagement means involving faculty, i.e. me, alumni such as these panelists here, and students yourself. We see it as a critical piece in our strategy for the next 3 years and beyond. But this is one of the strategies we've been working on for the past little while, so you are part of the inaugural launch of this program. So we'll start off by introducing some of our panelists. I'll go by name and then let them do the rest after I've run through them all. And I guess I should actually recognize also our chair, Justin Goodrich is here, chair of the Alumni Association, a director, Derek Froese, and also Lisa McMartin. I think I've caught everybody here, but also our awesome staff in the back, Nancy. If you have any questions about the association, by all means ask us. We're trying to connect students with alumni, give you guys a leg up, and add that value to your degree on top of the studies you're doing in class. So, absolutely happy that our panelists could be here today. First, Matthew Ehrenreich graduated with me. He's a finance major, currently working in investments. Maxine Bouthot graduated a little bit before me. Currently working at Envision, she's a branch manager. And then last but maybe least, Reeuwyk, a good friend of mine, also graduated with me, currently in accounting. He's a CPA. And actually I should mention, Matt is a newly minted CIM, so chartered investment manager as well. So we're definitely happy that you guys can all be here today. Thank you again. So to start things off, I was hoping maybe you could, starting with Matt and go down the line. Sure. Take a minute or two to describe yourself and your current role at your organization and the duties that you dive into every day, and something people will be surprised to know about you.
Okay. Well, my name is Matt Ehrenreich, like Nick said, and thank you very much for having me and all of us here today. We're excited to be here. So I graduated from UFV in 2011 with a business degree, and I went and worked at Scotiabank for about 6 to 8 months, and after that I went and worked for Odlum Brown Limited, an investment firm, and I worked in the Chilliwack office for about 3 years. And after that, I was hired on by Richardson GMP, the largest investment firm that's independent in Canada. And I was hired on in Vancouver, and I've been there for 6 months now. So I'm an associate. I work with another associate, an analyst, and a portfolio manager on a team of 4. So we manage retirement assets for wealthy individuals. And my basic day, so I'm an associate, I handle all the basic administrative stuff, so paperwork and account management. I also place trades in the various accounts for clients, and I'm the client service front of the team, so clients call me and I place calls to them as well. And I also get to work on the portfolio management side of it, so I get to do investment research and bring recommendations to the team on different investments we should add or remove from our client portfolios. And about me, I think that a work-life balance is really important. So I'm training for a marathon in May, and I also play other sports. I go hiking and play hockey, and I also run a stock market challenge at a local high school. And one thing that people might be surprised to know about me is I play competitive chess and compete all over BC at it. So I find that chess has a great direct relation to other areas of life, so I find that interesting.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Maxine Bouthot. I'm a branch manager with Envision Financial and have been there for about 15 years. Started as a service rep and kind of worked my way up and through while doing my degree here as well. So graduated with my BBA from here in 2007. Duties at work include a whole range of retail banking duties, such as account opening and closing, overseeing the staff that do that, as well as all retail mortgage loan approvals within the branch. And I'm also responsible for the compliance side for wealth, so mutual fund investments and that sort of thing. My responsibilities are the compliance side of that, as well as kind of general day-to-day people management. So I manage a team of about 22, plus an insurance office of about an additional 5 out of there. So about me, I live in Chilliwack. I have 2 young daughters, 6 and 2, and I've been married for 6 years. Something surprising you might not know about me is I came very close to not graduating with my BBA because I could not pass stats. So I'll leave that up to these guys. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Maxine.
My name is Derek. I work as a senior accountant at MNP LLP. I work in the Vancouver office. I originally started out doing a co-op in our Chilliwack office here on the Valley. And after I graduated, I transferred out to Vancouver, just because I felt like it would be, a good opportunity, a larger market, a good opportunity to get some strong experience out there while I was still young. And in my current role, I'm I guess I would say an auditor, like a financial statement auditor. I work in our public company group, so what I do is I audit the financial statements of small to mid-market publicly traded companies. So every year these companies need to file financial statements online so that investors can make decisions and financial statement users can make decisions on whether they want to invest in the company or not. And as the auditor, what I do is I go in there and we look at the books, we look at the cash they have, we look at the assets, and we make sure that their financial statements kind of accurately represent, the activities of the company during the year and what they own. So, and my day-to-day is really no 2 days are alike. Just because a lot of the projects and a lot of the engagements I work on span really like a fairly long period of time, maybe 1 month up to 2 months or so. So one day I might be, at a client's office, like looking at invoices, talking about compliance issues. The next day I might be at their facility, inspecting assets or other various things. So there's a lot of variability in what I do. And something you'd be interested to know about me, something unique. Well, my girlfriend is a big, huge fan of junk TV, and I give her quite a hard time about it. But I'll admit that I've probably seen just about every episode of Jersey Shore, so I think that would be a unique thing. So.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. One thing I think everybody in this room is probably very interested to know, many of these students here are either graduating this semester or graduating probably the next semester. It's a fourth-year class that's in our midst today, and one of the things I know I was as well is for someone who's in the financial industry, how would they make their way into it starting now? What things should they be doing, and how can they make that transition smoother and simpler? Maxine, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think as with anything, it's, dip your toe in. Even if it's an entry-level position, and that's not obviously going to be your end game, get in there, pick your field as far as where you want to be, and take what you can get kind of thing as far as understanding how the day-to-day works. I think it's really important, especially from a hiring manager's perspective, to see somebody coming out with a degree is fantastic, and education, of course, is one of the top things that we all look for. But experience, that marriage of experience with education is something that is hard to come by. So anyone that can come to the table with both those things automatically makes it to the top of the pile for those promotions.
Either one of you guys, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I would say, especially as a fourth-year student, you're kind of, right now I feel like, you're sort of in that transition phase. You should be considering and looking at opportunities and things that are available. So I feel like it's important to, even now, get out there and start networking, meet people in the industries you're interested in, ask them about their, what their field is like, what the demands of their jobs are, the qualifications, and other things that you would consider important factors too, like work-life balance, salary expectations, and try to figure out if you follow a similar path, if that's the kind of thing that you want. So network, meet people in the industry, in the industries that you're interested in.
I would just add to do as much reading as possible and research on the field you're interested in, just to kind of get a head start. Just buying books and reading as much as you can, and also co-op or internship if that's available to you. I know it wasn't really available to me, or I didn't seek it out as much, whereas some of my accounting friends did, and they found it really beneficial for them. So if there's some sort of internship available to you or co-op, I think that'd be beneficial. But otherwise, just reading and gaining as much knowledge as possible.
Great comments. Actually, I'll leap off of the co-op piece, and so Jean in the back here, if that interests you, that's the person you need to be talking to after this event today. But also, it was interesting about reading and researching and getting to understand the industry. One thing for me, I know that always impresses me when I see candidates coming across to work in financial technology and derivatives and risk management is their understanding of what's going on in the industry right now. What are some hot topics that are in your industry right now? Let's start with Derek.
I don't think I can provide anything specific to financial management or risk management, but for me, a lot of it, and I think it's kind of an umbrella sort of topic for the finance industry in general, is just increased kind of demands on regulatory compliance and those kind of issues. So I know in my day-to-day work, and that's probably the biggest stressor and the biggest challenge is that I have to answer to my managers, I have to answer to my partners in the work that I do, but also I understand that the partners that I work for are taking risk on the work that I'm doing, and they have to answer to provincial regulators, security regulators. They have to answer to Canadian or American, like SEC securities regulators. They have to answer to our internal firm quality assurance group. They have to answer to the provincial quality assurance group for the CA. And so there's a lot of, and every year it gets more and more strict, and every year it gets tighter and tighter. So I think that's just, since some of the issues with early 2000s, Enron, WorldCom, those sort of things, I think in the finance industry it's been getting tighter and tighter on the compliance side of things. So
situational fluency and compliance and regulation aspects.
Yeah,
for sure. Maxine, and not necessarily specific to risk management, just if somebody wanted to be involved in banking, and what's something they could start looking at today so that when they're in an interview and they can bring something up to show their interest.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo the issues with compliance and how it's becoming an ever-increasing focus, but for the financial sector from a retail banking standpoint, I think the one thing that we're talking about more and more and more is sustainability. So you guys, I'm sure in the news are hearing how low the mortgage rates are. Great for consumers. But it's really making a real shift in the banking world, because what used to be the way that we earned money, which as a business you need to earn a profit in order to continue on. Things that used to be our backbone, such as checking fees, service fees, right? Who here pays checking fees anymore, right? It's gone by the wayside. Mortgage rates, same. They're so low. And margin rates on them are so minuscule that we're really having to look at other revenue streams so that we can become sustainable. And that's an ongoing challenge. So that's something that, would be, from your perspective, something to really start to wrap your mind around if you're wanting to get into that retail banking sector.
I would just add, for financial markets, the cool thing is there's always so many hot topics. So is the price of oil going to stay low, or are interest rates going to rise, or Canadian housing and debt, is that going to be an issue going forward? There's so many different hot topics that I think you could become more well-informed on if you're trying to get into wealth management or investing. But I would say another topic, a hot topic that's important to learn about, is behavioral finance. A lot of people don't really think about it until they kind of get into the industry, but as humans, we're kind of wired to have two ends of the spectrum, fear and greed. So the more you kind of understand yourself and your own behavior, the better that you're going to advance as an investor and know more about wealth management industry and be able to advise clients on that kind of behavior. So I would say, the realm of behavioral finance in general is a fascinating topic, and if you kind of get a grounding in that, it would help you progress in wealth management and investing in general. So that's what I would say.
So, on this topic of moving from the classroom and into the workforce, should they be going straight to the workforce? Should they be looking at certifications? Should they be looking at grad school? In your opinion, or is it a mixture of the two or of the three? Maybe, Derek, why don't you start this time?
I think, you can definitely keep your options open. You can definitely, if you're interested in grad school, you have an opportunity. By all means, you can go do that. If you want to try out the workforce and work full-time for a little bit, again, to try that, by all means, go ahead. But one thing I'll definitely say is, especially these days, just a bachelor degree it's not enough to be a competitive employee in the market these days. It's really important to not only kind of get professional certifications on top of, especially in the finance industry, professional certifications on top of a bachelor degree, as well as like considering grad school, something like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely important to kind of augment your bachelor with professional accreditations and specializing too. Even if you get a professional accreditation, then to kind of carve out a market for yourself, you can really advance your career by becoming a specialist in what you do. So generalists are good and needed, but specialists it's a lot more rewarding. So.
Matt or Maxine, who would go first?
It's interesting. I mean, there's so many, obviously, options that you want to go to, and it really just depends at what level that you're wanting to jump into the workforce. I would actually disagree just slightly with you as far as the bachelor degree not being enough. I think depending on where you're at and what your strengths are, it absolutely can take you very, very far. If you're marrying that again with the experience piece and the people building, like the relationship building skills, I would have to say if somebody was to ask me what's the #1 skill for succeeding in a workforce today, it would be building relationships. So how do you interact with people? That will take you as far as a master's degree, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's no right answer. I mean, I guess in my industry, you need to get your CSC, your Canadian Securities Course license, to be able to trade investments at all. So that's usually the next course you take. I mean, as an entry-level position, usually you're able to get a job as long as you say you're working on it, but you can't trade any investments in BC unless you have the CSC. So that's the baseline course you need after your degree. And then from there, some people do the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, if they want to become an analyst. Otherwise, you can do the CIM, Chartered Investment Manager, which I've done, and that allows you to be able to manage people's money one day. In terms of whether to do an MBA, it's a tough one. I mean, if you kind of have the money to do it and you want to keep pursuing education before you get into the workforce, it could be a good avenue for you. I always thought I wanted to do my MBA. I still think I may do it, but people I've talked to that are superiors of mine now being in the workforce have said to me, you know, you're in the workforce now, why go spend the money and do it? Like, it's about the experience and actually working towards the next goal. So I guess it depends who you talk to, what kind of answer you're going to get, but ultimately I think that whatever industry you go into, you will be continuing to learn and take courses. And for all three of ours, there are different courses. The CA, there's the IFC for banking to have a mutual funds license. There's always new courses and ways to learn and grow.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to the next one? I mean, I just wanted to make sure everybody has an opportunity to raise any questions for the panelists themselves.
Matt, I was just wondering, did you say you worked at CIBC after you graduated?
Scotiabank.
Scotiabank,
yeah.
Sorry. Is that like, you say you worked there like 6 months or so?
6 to 8 months.
When you took your CSC? Or did you do it before you graduated?
So I went to Scotiabank and took my IFC, it's called Investment Funds of Canada.
Yeah.
That's the base level course with a credit union or bank to allow you to sell mutual funds.
Yeah.
The CSC, Canadian Securities course, if you go into wealth management or the investing field, that's the baseline course. It's a little trickier than the IFC. I've done both of them. But it's similar material, kind of just covers investing and just all the broad strokes. If you do well in fourth-year business courses, you usually have no problem with either the IFC or the CSC. But at a bank or a credit union, yeah, usually you take the IFC course, and so that's what I did with Scotiabank. Yeah.
How long does it take to get the CIM?
To get the CIM, it took me about 2 years. It's about it's 4 or 5 courses. Each one, it's really however long it takes you to study. The main thing about university I found for me is it helped me develop a process of how to study and learn material. So if you're good at hammering through a textbook and writing a test, it's usually just 1 test per course, and I think it's 4 or 5 courses to get your CIM. It usually takes about 2 years.
Yeah, Matt. For your
IFC, would you recommend doing it? I'm kind of in the same position as you right now.
Okay. What do you want to? What do you want to do next? Do you know?
Similar to what your industry or what industry you're in. So would you recommend that before the CIM in that case? Was it helpful or?
If you want to go right into investing, like work for an investment firm or get into wealth management, my opinion is you could skip the IFC. The CSC is the one you have to do.
Okay.
So I would do that one.
Oh,
but if you're starting off,
before,
but if you're starting off at a bank or credit union, usually they will pay for you to do the IFC,
they will.
and so that could be beneficial. But the CSC is all the same material and a little more comprehensive, so I would almost jump ahead and do that. And shows initiative, that's a good course to take.
Did you feel your BBA basically with the CSC just kind of helps you a lot with it?
Yeah, definitely. The tests they're a little tricky. It's usually 100 questions. You gotta get 60. That's it. Yeah. But depends how you are with. Is Raymond Leung still here? Raymond Leung multiple choice questions, or maybe it's Nik Venema now. It's kind of like there's annoying questions where you're kind of mad when you look at them because there's a couple right answers.
Right.
So if you can get 60 out of 100, then you'll. I have confidence that you pass it. You just got to put the hours in. 60 to 100 hours of study, and you're done.
So, anybody else before I move on to this? There'll be more opportunities. So, I'm curious to know, because I've had some experience moving myself from grad school into the workforce as well, and there's some things that you feel really well prepared for, and then there's some things that you feel, wow, I really wish I would have known this. So, in your opinion, what was the most advantageous thing about your degree from UFV? And what was it that you didn't know at that time and kind of had to learn on the fly when you got there that would be nice to share with the students? We start with Maxine.
Put me on the spot. You know what, the funny thing is about my degree, and because I graded in 2007, and so it was a bit of and I worked through my schooling and that sort of thing. And, looking back on it now, I would love to say that I pull out those textbooks and take a look at some of the theories and that sort of thing, but of course I don't. What I still find to be hugely valuable today is my ability to be an efficient researcher. So the pace of change in any industry, but I think particularly maybe the financial industry, the pace of change is huge. It's constantly moving, constantly speeding up. So the data that I learned back in 2007 is maybe no longer applicable, but the ability to research and stay current and know where to go and how to process that information and then apply it on a day-to-day basis is by far the most valuable skill I took away with.
For me, like I said before, honestly, from university, I just learned how to study, what my own process was for learning. And that was the main thing I took into the workforce. In my opinion, at least in my job, I found that everything I've kind of had to learn on the fly. I've learned a lot of the basic ground strokes from the different courses I took, but so there are a lot of important things, but there's nothing I can really put my finger on, to be honest, that really benefited me. It was just all the process of going through it, gaining that experience, learning what works best for me, and then applying that to the workforce. I mean, in my industry, it's a lot of research and analysis and study, so it's very similar to a lot of the courses in terms of the process you apply to it. So that's what I'd say. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of the same answers. Research is also another thing that I'm constantly involved with at work. So, I mean, going through the accounting courses here at UFV, you learn, or you think you learn the way to do things, but in the real accounting world, every year things change. There's a international body that every single year they kind of tweak and change how things are required to be done, how things, disclosures that are required for companies' financial statements. Every year I send a list to my clients of what's changing in the year and what they have to consider and consider how that could impact their statements and how they account for things. And so that's one thing we always have to stay on top of. So even if we see an issue and we think we know how to address it, something could have changed, and we have to be ready to do the research, dig into our materials. I mostly focus on the financial statement side of things, but then in tax as well. If you end up as a tax accountant, it's the same. the government changes the tax act and regulations every single year, so you gotta be familiar with researching that and going back and seeing, you know, the most current information. So
awesome. So this is the financial risk management class, financial engineering and risk management, I should say, and we've done a lot of talk about risk measurement. We talked a little bit about risk management, but I'm just curious to hear from the three of you, what does the risk management process look like at your organization? It doesn't have to necessarily be financial risk management, but just risk management in general, if you can speak to that. Matt, why don't you go first?
Sure. Risk management for our clients in terms of investments, just three brief things. I guess we employ diversification, so we always try to own at least 30 different investments for our clients to minimize risk. The second point would be position sizing. We usually only own 1 to 2% per position for clients to a maximum of about 4%. And then I would say some institutions use stop losses, so if an investment falls a certain amount, they automatically sell. We don't really do that, but we do set alerts. So if an investment falls 17%, that's our number, then we have a discussion. We dig over the research again and try to decide where to go from there. So those are a couple of our basic risk management ways that we handle our client accounts. Risk measurement, we track standard deviation, or kind of the volatility of returns for each asset class we invest in. So standard deviation is one way we measure risk, and then I guess we track the beta of different companies too. So I don't know how much you guys are into investing, but we try to have anti-correlated positions. So if we own a bank, we're going to also own a gold stock, and we're always going to try to own different anti-correlated positions to try to minimize risk for our clients. So that's kind of how we look at our risk measurement and management, respectively.
Thanks. Derek?
I think one thing we consider, one thing we have to always consider for our clients is their exposure to various risks and how then that can impact their operations and their performance down the road. And one such example for that is looking at some of our clients that have, I think, international sales and international purchases. So cross-border activity is one thing that's a major factor, especially right now with the movement in the Canadian dollar in the past year and a half. So we look at some of our companies who are, you know, they're purchasing product in Canada, and then packaging it, preparing it, and then sending it down in the States and selling it down there. So based on the current exchange rates, we'd see that as a beneficial thing. However, if we have a client who maybe is in the opposite position, where they're importing from the U.S., you know, 2 years ago they might have had strong margins on some activity like that, but you know, with the exchange rates changing the way they have, we might consider that as a bit of a risk now. So we have to consider and advise our clients on how that could impact their performance and their ability to kind of continue operating profitably. So and just on the financial statement level too, for our clients, that's one thing that we really have to dig into and make sure we disclose, so that then, you know, people like Matt, who's involved with making investment decisions on things like this, can you know, consider that and see if there's any risk there at the company level, and see if maybe they want to change an investment decision because the way, you know, change in foreign exchange rates have impacted this company. So
those are great points. One of the things we talked about a fair bit, we've done a lot of risk measurement, and at the end of the day, we recognize that computers are going to do most of this work for us, and that interpretation and disclosure in clear and plain language tends to be the biggest hurdle. So it's very interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
Maxine?
Yeah, I mean, my day-to-day kind of just has so many different layers of risk that we're looking at, and to be honest, most of the risk measurement we sort of leave to these guys that we have kind of in the background. So I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis, but what we do deal with on a day-to-day basis in the branch is risk as it relates to our customers, so our members, and how we view their risk, both from the investment side and from their borrowing side. So, for example, we measure our overall book of loans, so mortgages, and based on the risk of that overall book is where the organization can determine how their pricing strategy is going to continue on. And whether we can offer the same kind of discounts as some of the brokers out there and that sort of thing. So risk factors that we look at on those types of things is your credit score, your overall net worth, things like your GDS and TDS, so your gross debt servicing and your total debt servicing, and where that looks at, what percentage that's at, and those types of things. On a broader spectrum, because I'm a branch manager and I'm looking sort of from a store owner perspective, one of the biggest risks that I find is people risk, so the risk of not being able to attract talent and retain talent. So that's a whole other side of risk, but that's something that's definitely on my desk every day.
Yeah, Maxine, I mean, this is going to put you on the spot a little bit, and if you don't have an answer, that's okay. Does the bank actively participate in asset liability management? It's a big part for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's very heavily regulated as well from that perspective. So.
Okay, great. And Matt, just out of curiosity, we spoke a little bit about standard deviations as the measure for looking at security returns, the variance in the security returns. What are the measures? Do you use duration? Do you use value at risk?
We use duration when we look at our bond portfolio. We're using duration for sure. We don't use a lot of value at risk. The analysts on our team probably use that a little bit more than I do. Yeah, definitely.
Are there any other measures
that we use currently? Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. One more question, and then I'll open it up to you guys again, unless somebody has a question right off the bat. One of the big elements that the Alumni Association is pushing, in addition to engagement, is mentorship, and then looking for relationships, like real relationships, not just going to an event and handing out a few business cards, but actually developing a relationship where you can do something meaningful. What's the best way to find a mentor in your industry for someone who probably doesn't have much of a network in the industry to begin with? Where should they be going? Who should they be talking to? And what are the questions they should be asking? Derek, you want to talk first?
Well, I think just getting involved in events like this is a good start. Yeah, but just finding somebody who's in an industry that you're interested in, or in a position you're interested in, and creating that relationship, and finding somebody who's willing to take on a mentor. I think there are a lot of people down there, a lot of people in the workforce who are proud of their accomplishments and willing to take on a mentor or a student and kind of provide suggestions and meet up with them. And it doesn't need to be it can be like a once a year thing, a once a month thing. So there are lots of opportunities and varying degrees of mentorship available out there. So yeah, getting actively involved in events like this and going out there and pursuing people. I think not being afraid to kind of, I guess, make cold calls as well is another big thing. I know when I was trying to get into my industry, I got the name of somebody, and it's always hard to make that first step and that first connection, but I think once you get over that, you can always find people. So.
Yeah, it could be anyone. It could be a relative. It could be friends of the family. Anytime you meet someone who's had success in the industry that interests you, I would just encourage you not to be nervous and to reach out and to try to go for coffee or shoot them an email. For me, it was 2 or 3 professors from my business courses that I decided to email right after I had finished my degree, and they gave me little pieces of advice, and I stayed in contact with them for a little bit. Not so much now, but I mean, so if Nick's interested in that for some of you or other teachers you have, I think that could be a valuable start, is talking to your professors, spending the time to at least ask them a couple questions and gain some insight from them. And then I guess as soon as you are in the workforce, just to keep an open mind about that and to remember that mentorship is so valuable. It's one of the most valuable things. So just to try to keep open the options of learning from someone if they come across your path is key, in my opinion.
So Maxine, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, mentorship and being a mentee is something that I wish I had pursued much harder earlier. I've had the opportunity in the last couple of years to have a formal relationship with a mentor, and I can't say enough about the experience and how much it's really shed some light on some of the blind spots that I've kind of gone through my career with. As far as seeking one out, I agree, like these types of events are fantastic. You guys are lucky that you are going to a fantastic school here with amazing faculty. Call on them. Call on the Alumni Association. call out for them as well. I think there's a lot of stuff built in for you guys, but once you get out there, pursue it further. So, and don't necessarily think it has to be the CEO or even a VP. Go up a couple of levels, and you'll be amazed at how applicable the advice that they can give you will actually be.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that when we open it up for networking afterwards, everybody should be coming right up to you guys. Sure, asking for some contact information.
Definitely.
That's good. One last thing before I'll open it up to the floor here again. What's one thing that students here as they enter the workforce can keep in mind to flourish in their respective roles and for speaking to the industry within which you work? Derek, why don't you start?
Keep an open mind. You have lots of opportunities in university to kind of be open-minded about certain things, but I feel, especially when you think of sort of my industry, accounting, tax, you kind of think it's supposed to be done one way and that's the way it is, but there's a lot of kind of subjectivity and gray area to a lot of what we do. There's a lot of professional judgment. There's a lot of there's a lot of leeway as to how you can do certain things. So keep an open mind. Keep an open mind.
Maxine, what about you?
I think my advice would be just to stay nimble. I mentioned the pace of change before, but there's always new things and there's always new technology, and in order to survive these days, you need to be on the cusp of that. So be nimble, be very adaptable to change because it's the only constant. Be ambitious. Just go for it.
I jotted a couple down because I think this is super important. So I would say first, keep learning as a high priority. So always try to learn more. Don't just punch the clock, go through every day. Always try to learn on top of that. In financial markets, there's so many different disciplines, as well as investing and wealth management. You have to learn history and psychology and so many other different fields of knowledge. So I guess just trying to learn all these different disciplines to help build up your knowledge in many areas. I think that's one main key. Second is to read constantly. Always be reading and learning and digesting material as much as you can. You just spend half an hour to an hour a day in the morning just learning from different financial blogs and reading and absorbing material. And those half-hour or hours, over time, they start to build up and you start to gain more knowledge. So it's all about getting ahead, continuing to learn and advance yourself, and putting an investment in yourself to continue to learn. Third, I would say push yourself outside your comfort zone. So always do things like, something like this is nerve-wracking to do, but I just came and did it anyway. Always try to do something that maybe isn't comfortable for you, but helps you improve. It's okay to fail and make mistakes. Just as long as you're always pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, that's the way to, in my opinion, continue to grow and progress. I would say ask questions and show initiative. Whether you're in the classroom, one thing I regret is not asking more questions in university and staying after class to dig into my professor and learn more, because later on you're just going to have to learn to get better at your job anyway. So you might as well take advantage of every situation or opportunity you're in and ask questions and show initiative. And finally, which Derek touched on earlier, is just to network as much as possible. So to try to get in contact with people in the industry you're interested in, and to, again, push yourself outside your comfort zone, to continue to network and meet people, because you never know when it's going to benefit you later on in life. That's what I said.
Awesome. And thanks for all your comments. Does anybody have any questions out in the audience? I imagine a few you might have a thing or two. Graham, you look like you're ready to ask a question.
All my questions are very much answered.
You guys did a good job then. Yeah, great.
Matt, you're saying you work downtown?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Did you find it was a hard transition coming from the Valley to downtown? What did you do to take the steps to get downtown?
So in terms of living, is it hard, or in terms of
work? Just work. Did you find it harder to get a position downtown?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. I applied. Indeed.ca was a great website. Write that down, sure. Yeah. Investment assistant, investment support, financial assistant, investment advisor, associate advisor, all those kind of keywords. There's tons of different investment firms downtown. I applied for 20 separate jobs. That's how many there were.
Yeah.
I only heard back from 4. Got 4 interviews, only 2 offers out of the 20. So, but the one I selected, there wasn't even a position. I just contacted the firm because it's a prestigious firm. So there doesn't even have to be a position. Just find an organization you like to work for and contact them. And a lot of times they're not even looking for experience. They want someone who doesn't have a ton of experience that they can mold and build into their culture. They don't want some stubborn person all the time that has a ton of experience. They want someone eager and willing to learn that they can mold into their culture. So you don't need a ton of experience. You just have to be optimistic and present yourself well, and sometimes it's your extracurricular work or other interests that intrigues them. So just be yourself, and that's what I would suggest.
So I gotta ask, so when you first started, like, describe that first week. What was it like?
It's stressful because you want the answer to everything, and you have the answer to almost nothing. So you're asking everyone always. You're always trying to ask different people, so you're not asking the same person like 5 times.
You can't call Raymond long enough.
No, yeah. So it's frustrating because you're used to being good at classes and smart and whatever, and then you're constantly, there's so much changing around you at all times in this job that you're constantly struggling when you start, and you have to be patient with yourself and just I found it helpful to have a book and write down things that I could reference later. I found that helpful, and slowly you just kind of build up tolerances and get better at your job, and you start to have the answers to some of the questions. But at first it's a struggle and you don't know all the answers, but you just show initiative and ask for help, and people are friendly and want to help you out. But definitely it's a little bit all over the place at first.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You fake it till you make it.
A little bit, yeah.
Anybody else?
I know Maxine touched on this a little bit, but like, how much of the stuff that you learned in university is applicable to what you're doing now? Like, since the industry keeps changing, like, how much do you have to memorize from here, and then it's just like, oh, I'm not going to use this anymore? Just in general.
That's a tough question, to be honest. I think it comes down to just the fact that there's actually little that I memorized during my degree program that I apply on a daily basis. But again, it's the ability to problem solve. It's the ability to work well with a team. Those types of skills that you kind of come out of university with that you're using all the time.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of soft skills you kind of develop through university that you probably don't realize until you kind of get out into the workforce. So, and then kind of what we mentioned earlier as well, like you learn a lot of technical through university, and technical kind of comes and goes, but that's where the strong research ability comes in. So if you don't know exactly how to do something, to be able to, you have your resources, you have maybe not a textbook, you know where to find it and you can figure it out. So
Awesome.
When you're just like cold calling somebody or an employer they might want to work for, what are some types of things you would ask, or some sort of things you might say to just kind of get the ball rolling? Because for me, I've never really done anything like that. I don't know necessarily what to ask or what to say. Just what would you recommend?
I don't know if you would call the organization. Maybe I'm wrong. Usually you probably email them.
Yeah.
It depends if there's a position or not. If there's a position or not, you just express your interest, state kind of your background and your interest in the field, and no matter what their response is, you always ask for more feedback. So even if you don't get what you want, you say, what could I be doing? You show initiative whenever you get shut down. So what could I do to improve and have a chance at this? Sometimes just that alone intrigues them enough that they want to hire you in the future. So using everything as an opportunity, I would say. But in general, you can just ask them questions as well and show interest, I think, as a starting point.
And I would say too, because a lot of times if you're phoning, you may not get the person that you actually want to talk to, right? Because hiring is often centralized. So your resume and your cover letter becomes very important. Never ever send the same cover letter to more than one company. Make sure your cover letter is specific.
Yeah.
and contains something specific to that organization. So check out the website. What awards have they won? What was their last big project? Whatever it is, and include the fact that you know that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Well, I was gonna say I would say be authentic about it too.
Yeah.
As somebody who's gone through for accountants, we do like the CA recruit every year. So that's a process where everybody goes through and tons of networking events, tons of meeting students and whatnot. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and or both ends of it as a student and as a recruiter. So it's pretty clear when somebody's just trying to talk you up, and it's pretty clear when somebody's genuinely interested in the organization. So.
Yeah, it's Tom.
Question for you, Maxine. Ideally, what are you looking at? What grabs your attention when you hire someone during the interview process? Like, coming in branch and basically talking to you one-on-one, or
Yeah.
because there's so many resumes and cover letters that you can hand into basically everywhere, right? What gets your attention?
You know what? I love it when people come in and talk to me in person. It's really hard to give a piece of paper attention when you've got 30 other things happening in your day. To shake someone's hand does go a long way. As far as skill sets that I'm looking for, retail banking, if that's the sector that you're looking at, you need to have those sales skills. So whether that's some sort of experience, whether it's future shop, whether it's being a server somewhere, again, married with that educational footprint into the sector that you're looking at, it's kind of a magic recipe for me. I've had a lot of success looking at those two things.
Any other questions here? Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of just a question to both of you in general. The age-old question: does the employer look at the GPA? How significant is it when you're hiring?
I think it would differ. I think maybe for accounting a little more, right?
Well, I know firms that don't look very closely at the GPA. And that's not because it's not an important thing, but it's because for us they know, or for those particular firms, they know that even if somebody comes in, if somebody has a lower GPA but they're a great person, they have great soft skills, I think kind of like Matt said, like if you're a hard worker and you have the soft skills to deal with clients, then there are a lot of firms that are confident that they can train you up to do the job that you need to do and do it well. Because to be honest, to train somebody on some technical issues and the technical component of work is probably easier than to train somebody on soft skills. So for my firm in particular, it's we just want to make sure that the person has kind of the smarts to be able to do the job they need to do. But again, if somebody has a lower GPA but they're a great person in person, then we're confident too that we can train them so that they can do their job, and they can excel and move up.
I don't think they're usually going to check into your GPA either.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a stellar GPA, I would put with a GPA of 4 or whatever. But I mean, say you have a 2.5, you just say graduated with a business degree.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to dig into it more, they can, but I don't think many would. But again, it may be different in different industries, but I don't think it's a huge deal breaker, at least not in my industry.
Yeah, nor in mine. But what is important is that they do very specific assessments. So they'll do sales assessments, they'll do kind of some technical assessments, and the scoring on those will go into the decision.
Thanks. Awesome.
This is for Matthew. Are you thinking of getting your CFA?
Good question. I'm considering doing it this fall, actually, but I don't know. It's a battle for me to decide. Maybe. I'm still trying to decide. It's 6 months, 6 textbooks, 6 months straight, 1 course, 20% pass rate, and then you do it again twice more. And it's a lot of work. It's 3 years worth of work. I mean, I've talked to different people in my industry. People that have it seem to say do it. People that don't have it seem to say you don't need it. So all the portfolio managers I've worked for who manage millions of dollars for clients, none of them have had one. but it's more of a new age thing. You know, it's kind of the bread and butter of people moving up in the financial industry. So it does make you stand out if you have it. And if you want to be an analyst at a firm, usually it's a requirement. So it depends if you want to be an analyst and do all the number crunching kind of behind the scenes, or if you want to be client serving, dealing with people, managing money. I would say you don't necessarily need it if you're managing money. You need it if you're an analyst. But I think that it's beneficial no matter what. But it is a lot of extra work. So I'm currently trying to decide. I just finished the CIM. That would be the likely next thing I could take. And I think I will try it at some point in time. I'm not sure when yet, but it's the top course. It's the hard course to do. So if you like a challenge, I think it's good. And no matter what, I think I'll learn a lot from it if I do it. So I probably will end up doing it, but it's battling with that right now. Yeah.
So we'll take one more question from Dan, and then we'll wrap this up.
Just a quick question. How, because I think it's more for Derek and Matt, but when you were, like, because you guys are recently graduated, when you were being interviewed for your current positions, how did you represent your time here at UFV? When they asked you the question, okay, UFV, how was that? What was your response? What did you find successful there, I guess?
I think one thing that I really highlighted was that UFV is a very interactive university. With the smaller class sizes, you got a lot of engagement with professors, a lot of group engagements as well, group projects, those sort of things. So I guess highlighting that, you know, the development there and the advantages you get out of that kind of environment. So that was one thing I tried to bring into the table. So.
I would echo that. I said some of the similar things. I didn't really talk too much about the specifics of UFV, just in general about the business courses and how I enjoyed them, I guess. Nothing too crazy.
Maxine, you may comment if you want.
Yeah, I can't remember that far back.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming out here. Just for all of you, 2 of the 3 panelists, they all left their job early today. 2 of them drove up from downtown Vancouver to come visit you. The reason they did that is because they care about you. They care about you because they're alumni. They were in the same seats you guys were in. Hopefully one day we can call some of you back to do this as well. Love to celebrate your accomplishments and share your experience coming out of university and entering the workforce. Can you just give them a round of applause? And on behalf of the association, just to show our thanks, we got you each a little gift, so thanks for coming out today, Matt. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Maxine as well, thank you. Appreciate you coming out and taking time. And you're coming for your own. I appreciate that you're not wearing a tie. Normally I wouldn't either. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so networking, chatting with each other, to quiz these people here. They're here to help you